All right, I'd like to finish gray boxing out this vehicle. So let's go ahead and what's interesting is we could really use this top view as a way of constructing our thing. And I think we will when we go to make a more refined model. Again, this is just going to be a placeholder piece for now. All right, so with that said, let's go ahead and just kind of bring this out a little bit like this. And let's go ahead and move this to our right view. And I'm going to pull this something like that. And I'm just going to hit Control R. And then if you hit like escape, you can uncheck your move. But if you left click, you can kind of move it where you want it to go. I'm just going to move it here. Select this top face here by pressing 3. And then just hitting E to extrude up. I want to delete that inside face. That's why I allowed it to kind of go off in that direction instead of hitting E and Z to go straight up. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete that face. Let's just bring this closer together. And then what I'm going to do is hit 2 and bring this over. All right, let's go to this view. And I'm going to press 1. Let's hit Alt and Z to go to X-ray mode, just so we can double check a little bit of our specs here. Just bring that down. And really, that's a good enough cab because I haven't decided fully if it is futuristic or anything like that. I'm going to go ahead and select this though, and I'm going to hit Control D, then escape, and just pull the duplicate. So sorry, Shift D is what I'm looking for, then escape, pull this back here. And I can use that to shape these. But as I mentioned before, I kind of want to adjust the design a lot to my own liking. So I'm going to leave that where it is. Then hit Shift A, Mesh Cube. And then just bring this cube up this way. And you want to, a lot of times, reuse as many assets as you can. So for example, the box here, and then the bed that it's sitting on really could be 2 of the same cube. So I'm going to hit Shift D here, hit escape, bring it down. And then I can hit tab over to edit mode. Edit this one first. Bring this all the way back here. Now for this, there's not going to be much difference in the detail from one side to the other of this bed. It's really just going to be a box. So I'm not too concerned with keeping this symmetrical. So I'm really just going to grab these and just bring them over like that. Same thing with this box. I just want it to line up a little bit better. So let's go ahead and just use this as our top view. And looks pretty centered. This is not, obviously. So let's actually grab both of these and just line it up along that green line. And same thing with this. Let's go ahead and just line it up. And then I can hit Shift D, hit escape, just bring this out. And then in this view, I can, same thing as before, put it down here, tab to edit mode. And I'm going to show you how to weld those other sides together, just for the Graybox piece. Let's go ahead and hit A, then S to scale. And then let's go ahead and scale it out on our Z. Let's do X-axis rather. There we go. Bring that forward. Not bad. Actually, what we can do is just delete this and then Shift D, escape, bring this up. And then I'll just scale this in a little bit. Now, if you hold Shift and hit spacebar, it's like a shortcut for this. I know I covered that a little bit before, but just so that you have it. Let's hit tab, edit mode. Let's go to 3. Let's bring this up and just line it up like that. All right. Now, in order to get this to weld, what you want to do is, so I selected this cab, and notice if I hit A here and I move this out, it's not welded. There's this clipping here. So when you turn that on, you move it in and out, you'll see it actually welds those center pieces for you. And that's really the only piece I need to do that for. Now what I'm going to do is select each one of these elements. Well, actually, let's start with anything that has a mirror on it. I'm going to hit Control. Well, actually, let's do this. Let's select them. I'm going to hold Shift Space and just go to the Move tool, then hit Shift D and then Escape, and then just move it down here so we have a copy of our truck. And then I'm going to hit Control A on each one of these components that requires a mirror. Control A is the shortcut for apply. That's this right here. So then I'm going to select all of these different pieces. Looks like I didn't copy this, so let's make sure I grab that too. Bring it down here. Remember, this is a placeholder, not the finished model. And let's go ahead and hit Control. I think it's Control J rather, and that will join it all into one piece. And I can name this truck. And what I want to do is center the pivot. So I'm going to hit Shift A, or Control A rather, and I'm going to go to All Transforms, and then Control A, I'm going to right click and go to Set Origin, Origin to Geometry. And that centers your geometry. And then you can do All Transforms to Delta, and it cleans it out. Now, really, when we go to export this, we want this to be positioned in our world. So a way to get that is, you see this 3D cursor, you can hit Shift S and then do selection to cursor, and it'll move it to the cursor. So I'm just going to move it up above the grid line like that. So we can kind of double check this from the front, and that looks pretty good. Now, ideally, we'd have a character height model, and we'll make that later. We'll measure that out to, maybe we'll make our character like 6 feet. So I'm going to hit Control A one more time, All Transforms to Delta, so it's clean. Then I'm going to do File, Export, and let's make sure that this is the correct kind of truck. And then when we go to export it, we'll name it truck as well, a garbage truck. Oh, actually, you know what we forgot? Let's go to edit mode and select this back face here. And then there's a couple things you can do. We can actually, let's go ahead and separate this, and I'll teach you really quickly another. So I just right clicked and I went to separate. So here is going to be our door. So I'm going to right click, set origin to geometry. So here's our door that's going to go up and down. So we'll name this truck underscore door. Now, notice when we look inside of here, it's empty. But the problem here is this truck, if we were to bring it in an engine, it'll actually make this transparent. Let's go ahead and do that so you can see this. So I'm going to go ahead and separate this, make this door separate. But let's export this so you can see what I'm talking about. So I'm going to do File, Export FBX. And what I want to do for my settings here is I'm going to do Selected Object. And let's go to our desktop, and I'm going to just throw this G truck on the desktop. And then I'm going to drag it into my Lumberyard project here. And let's see, instead of trash bag, let's make a folder in props, or objects rather. Let's make a new folder called, I don't know. Vehicles, I guess. And then we'll name this G truck. G underscore truck for garbage truck. I'm going to hit open. And then let's get rid of this. And then we want to import the asset into there. We don't need to view the status. Let's go ahead and find that model. We'll drag it into our scene here. You can see the size isn't that bad in comparison to the trash bags, right? Like it's actually okay. I'm going to hit Z to focus in on this thing. Now, we don't have a texture for it yet. And notice, though, when we look inside this truck, it's not two-sided, right? So the face is kind of not there. So I'm actually going to go to Show and Explore, and let's see if I can get this to work. So sometimes I can't write over an object if I change the geometry or the number of verts too much. So anyway, I made a quick shortcut to that folder on the desktop so I can write over this. And then I'm going to tab over to edit mode here. And then I'm going to hit 3 and then A to select the back of this truck. Actually, I think you can just press L and it'll only select the bed. Yeah. And then I'm going to hit P to separate that selection. And the reason for that is what I want to do is I want to create the inside of this truck. And so I'm going to introduce you to a new modifier. It's my solidify modifier. So with that on there, well, you probably aren't, it's hard to see, is there's a little bit of a, here, let's increase the thickness. You can see it added thickness to that box. So it added like a shell to it. Actually, what might be cool is we'll make the door out of a white box inside of Lumberyard. All right, so I'm going to tab over to the object mode, select both of those. And actually with this, I'm going to hit Control A on solidify. And let's go ahead and select both. And then let's join those together. It's still called truck, which is good. And let's just see if we can actually export over the vehicle that's located here and see if it actually updates. Oh, it did update. All right, cool. Yeah, like I said, I sometimes have problems in the past, but now you can see it's no longer transparent. And what I'm going to do here is, this is our entity here. I'm just going to name, wait, where is this? Yeah, that's called G-Truck, which is cool. I'm going to right click. I'm going to create a child entity here. And I'm going to call this door. And inside that, I'm going to add the white box component. So white box. And which would appear, where's my white box? There it is. And so this is kind of a neat way of merging both and teaching you about child objects. So let's edit this. I'm just going to select this face and just move it in. And then I'm going to hit done, and I'm going to move it a little bit this way and then down. And let's actually try to line this up a little bit better. I'm going to hit Z to focus on that. So let's hit edit again. And I wonder if I could just select all of these faces, maybe, and move them forward. I'm going to do some research in figuring out how to center the pivot. See how the pivot is kind of off a little bit while you're editing an object. I'm sure there's a way to do it, and I'm just not familiar with it. Okay, so if I position it here, and let's go this way. Scale this up a little bit, and then I'm just going to edit that top face. So what we'll do is maybe we'll figure out a way to maybe it folds up or something like that. Well, like once you're ready to throw the garbage in, you know, or we could, I mean, maybe it has one of those cool, goes all the way straight up. We'll do it that way. So every time the sphere walks up to it, we'll script a trigger. We'll do it in the next video because we're at 14 minutes where that moves up.